The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Let us pray. Almighty and ever-living God, source of all wisdom and understanding, be present with those who take counsel in St. Mary's and Tuxedo for the renewal and mission of your church. Teach us in all things to seek first your honor and glory. Guide us to perceive what is right, and grant us both the courage to pursue it and the grace to accomplish it. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Amen. Now, I would like to confirm that at least 10% of the total number of members over 18 who are communicants in good standing, which is 88, are present. We need 9. Looks like we've made it. Having established that a quorum is present, I call the annual meeting of the Corporation of St. Mary's in Tuxedo to order. As is customary, our agenda today will include the review and approval of last year's annual meeting minutes, the election of a warden and vestry candidates, and reports from the rector emeritus, the treasurer, and our committees. The minutes of last year's annual meeting have been distributed. Are there any corrections required? If not, is there a motion to approve them? Spiros moves.
Yes.
Is there a second? Lily seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Wonderful. Next on the agenda, we will present the nominated candidates for warden and vestry. In the Episcopal Church, the vestry serves a vital role as the board of trustees for the corporation, but vestry service is also an important ministry, and I am grateful for their partnership in taking care of the spiritual and temporal needs of the entire community. I would like to offer a special word of thanks to our outgoing warden and vestry members, class of 2025. Lily Newhouser has served for 6 years as senior warden, and before that as a member of the vestry and the chair of many benefit committees. The ever-popular Emporium was her brainchild and has become an important source of revenue and community building for the church. Inger Grutrich has served faithfully on the vestry for 6 years and has also served as the chair of the Vital Stewardship Committee. Calvin DeMond is a veteran of the vestry and has transformed our live stream ministry from an iPhone paper-clipped to a music stand to what it is today. Jock McKinnon is a decades-long member of the community and is recently completing a term on the vestry. He will hopefully begin serving another term today. His legal background has been of great help in the last few years. Thank you to you all. At St. Mary's, the vestry serves as the nominating committee for open terms, and this is the list of candidates proposed for the open warden and vestry positions. Scott Mullins for his first term as warden. Jock McKinnon for his second term as vestry member. Larry Bull and Rob Person for their first full terms as vestry members, and Agnes Turner to fill the unexpired 2-year term of Scott Mullins as vestry member. There is also an option for nominating candidates from the floor, provided they have the sufficient written support of qualified voters. This will make things much more complicated and requires us to keep the polls open for at least an hour. And I ask now, or forever hold your peace, if there are any nominations from the floor. All right. Great. Hearing no further nominations, I now declare the nominations closed. Given there is only one nominee per position, is there a motion to elect the warden and vestry members by acclamation?
I move. Yes.
B moves, Spiros seconds. All right. Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Congratulations to all those who were elected. And now I'd like to present my report for this year. Oh, look at that. I've heard it said that there is a rhythm to life, and that is certainly true here at St. Mary's. There are some blessed moments of quiet, but they are interspersed with seasons of great and vigorous activity. The busiest season begins sometime in October and hurtles us towards the holiday season, which climaxes with the Incarnation and its subsequent feasts. But wait, there's more. Just when you think it's over, along comes the annual meeting. and all that that entails. Once again, we've pulled it all together with hospitality courtesy of the vestry, reports duly submitted, presentations prepared, and many hours of behind-the-scenes work done to make sure that everything is as accurate and transparent as possible so that you, the congregation, have a clear picture of where we stand and all we do throughout the year to accomplish our goals. And I would like to say thank you to Pete for basically doing, this has been a full-time job for about a month, and we went to bed about 1 o'clock last night. So, on the diocesan level, 2025 was entitled A Year of Purpose, with a focus on prayer, renewal, and the reweaving of our pastoral fabric. Our bishop wrote, "In this year of purpose, we gather with hearts attentive to the needs emerging in our communities. Every act of compassion strengthens the threads of care that weave our pastoral fabric together." After 8 years as your rector, God and you have blessed me with a deep sense of purpose, place, and peace. As I go back and review my calendar to prepare my report, I am moved not so much by the big events, though they are fabulous, but by the little appointments here and there that remind me about the quiet and often private work I do as a priest and pastor for you and our community. I am truly grateful that because of you, I'm able to accomplish these small but meaningful ministrations. For example, in 1 week in February of last year, 11 o'clock promenade communion, 11:30 pastoral visit, and later 10 o'clock Holy Eucharist, 10:30 Harrison, and later in the week 10:30 Valley View Communion. With that in mind, and knowing that these things happen continually throughout the year, here are the other highlights of 2025. In January, we celebrated Harrison Bush's 99th birthday, and in February, we observed the St. Blaise Blessing of the Throats using a magnificent ceremonial double candle that I purchased in honor of Harrison, for whom the observation was of great importance. In March, we had our perennially popular Mardi Gras Sunday, featuring Verdi's Grand March from Aida on the great organ, king cake, and general mirth ahead of the looming season of Lent. We had 2 beautiful services on Ash Wednesday to mark the beginning of that season of fasting and repentance, which we observed beautifully. On the first Sunday in Lent, we chanted the Great Litany and had a surprise visit from the Bishop of New York. Prior to that, we had not seen the ordinary being the bishop, in 12 years. On subsequent Sundays, the Decalogue and Penitential Order were chanted. Our popular potluck book group also convened on Wednesdays at the rectory as we discussed Bishop Marianne Edgar Buddy's book, How We Learn to Be Brave. It's also worth noting that on March 26th, I have this in my calendar, yours truly began demolition of the master bathroom of the rectory, a project that was very successful but still incomplete due to our plumber who let water get into the steam line and has been ghosting me for weeks. In April, the Finance Committee met via Zoom with the Diocesan Adjustment Board to address our assessment, which was set at about $50,000. We got it reduced by half, and thanks to legislation passed at Diocesan Convention, our new common mission share is at $13,000, quite a difference. On a side note, I was really disappointed to learn how much certain parishes, mostly in Manhattan and Staten Island, chose just not to pay, some owing millions. Convention voted to forgive all of the arrearages as there simply was no other alternative at that level of debt. The debt owed to the diocese was for years the greatest number on the annual budget. I am proud to say that even though the old system was onerous, St. Mary's and all but one other church in this clericus, which includes all of Western Orange and Sullivan counties, had 0 arrearages. The small and rural parishes are truly the backbone of the diocese, make no mistake about that. April saw the beauty of Holy Week and Easter. On Maundy Thursday, we were able to return to our chapel after years of restoration work. A candlelight procession went down from the nave to the chapel where the sacrament was reposed, all to the haunting refrain of Go to Dark Gethsemane, sung a cappella by our Schola Cantorum. Easter Day was glorious as always, thanks to all involved, but especially to our music ministry and our guest brass choir. One of my favorite things to watch is the lower doors of this building burst open as children pour out in droves to hunt for Easter eggs amidst the monuments of the churchyard. It's almost a class in Christian theology itself. The end of the month saw the annual Diocesan Priests Retreat at Cedar Lakes Estate in Port Jervis, where I earned my second Edney Award. The Edneys are the awards given out at the Episcopal Diocese of New York. Everybody gets one. It's sort of a fun thing. But this time, my previous award for best was I tied for best hat with the three bishops. And this year, I won an award for almost preached to someone famous. Because when I said I had, at one time, I invited Sutton Foster to come to church, but she never did. So, almost. May was a bittersweet month. On May the 4th, we held our parish talent show, which appropriately featured a Shakespearean telling of Star Wars. Everyone was great at their characters, especially Darth Roy. Later that week, Pete and I were privileged to attend the Divine Light Gala at the Cathedral, with the honoree being Judy Collins, with Patti LuPone as MC. Look at that. I love New York. I did not expect Ms. Collins to sing, but she did, and she did not disappoint. She sang Both Sides and then Amazing Grace. And there wasn't a dry eye in the house, and I will never forget it. Later that week, we traveled to Philadelphia for the funeral of a dear friend and mentor, the Reverend Canon Gordon Reed, sometime Dean of Gibraltar and Rector of St. Clement's Church, Philadelphia. It was a time of reconnection, laughter, and tears. And at the end of the month, St. Mary's once again hosted the Memorial Day exercises with an inspiring speech by our own Dr. Rob Person, Professor of International Relations at the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. We also held our annual Camp Cocktails event, which raises money for summer camp scholarships for local children. Pilgrimages are an important part of the Christian experience, and they differ greatly from vacation travel, especially when, after a long day of travel on the bus, you hear your tour guide and you're pulling into your hotel parking lot. You hear the tour guide say, "Oh, by the way, this is a dry hotel and town." Just needed a martini. However, pilgrimage is a great gift and a bolster to our faith. In June, Pete and I were privileged to join a pilgrimage to Turkey in commemoration of the 1700th anniversary of the Council of Nicaea. Being on a bus with 34 other pilgrims of varying physical abilities and bathroom needs was a trial, but also a blessing. We saw so many exquisite sights. Foremost among them was the storied Hagia Sophia. I am working on a travel log to present to you later this winter. Later in June, we hosted the annual Rectory Garden Party and held the annual Spring Cocktail Party at the club. Yeah, July came in with a bang.
Not a good picture.
It's hard to do a picture of fireworks. July came in with a bang with the Father Rick Fireworks Spectacular at the Rectory, set to the iconic music of John Williams' Star Wars Suite. It is getting so popular that I think we may have to start renting bleachers. Pete and I also got an opportunity to get away with the girls to Provincetown, Massachusetts, the site of our marriage 15 years ago, and later hosted some city friends at the Rectory. August is blessedly quiet, except for our annual trip to the New York Renaissance Fair with the rector of Warwick and her wife, as well as Lauren and Sean. This year, we went on Time Traveler Weekend, and Pete, Lauren, and Sean did a last-minute but excellent Jurassic Park theme. I, of course, dressed as Obi-Wan Kenobi. Hello there. You wouldn't believe, walking around, people, they were just totally nerding out on all of us. So for these three, they were like, say your line, say your line. And Pete had his couple of lines, and Lauren had hers, and Sean had his. And for me, I would just walk by, everybody would say, oh, we want to, I say, hello there. And you wouldn't believe, they're like, he said it, he said it. And they get so excited. And in fact, one couple came up to me, and the guy, he said, Obi-Wan, I said, hello there, and his girlfriend got mad at him because she said, you stole my line. But anyway, it was a lot of fun. You're all welcome to join us next year. In mid-August, we said goodbye to Jennifer Poloni and her family as they moved to South Carolina. I truly enjoyed working with Jennifer and miss her every day. Not only was she great at her role as office administrator, but she took on coordinating the Sunday school with aplomb. Best wishes to her and her family in this new chapter. Aoife returned temporarily, but has her own plans for the future, so we will soon be looking for a new office administrator. September began with a visit to St. Mary's by our friend Jim Murphy, who spoke to us about the importance of estate planning and the many ways that anyone can give a meaningful gift to St. Mary's. Later that week, I officiated at the wedding of Janet Galuska's grandson and his lovely bride. That's the bride, not that. It was the second wedding reception in my career that featured a mascot from a Philadelphia team, Go Birds. At the end of the month, I was privileged to return to my home parish, Christ Church Cathedral, New Orleans, to preach ahead of the annual gathering of the Society of Catholic Priests, which was held there. I gave a plenary on Eucharistic celebration, which was the highest attended talk. I also got to serve as thurifer for some of the liturgies and was proud to point out the needlepoint kneeler, showing a much younger me doing the same thing over 2 decades ago. In October, we held our annual St. Francis Day Pet Blessing, which is always a popular service. Pete and I attended the community, formerly known as Sloatsburg Food Pantry's fundraiser at Suffern High School. Congratulations to Pete, who now represents St. Mary's on the board of the food pantry. We also had the incredible opportunity to attend the Diocese of New York's Rector's pilgrimage to London, where we got to take part in amazing services. I was drafted into reading the gospel and serving the chalice at St. Giles in the Fields, there, and have some incredible meals and reconnect with colleagues and meet new friends, not least of which was the Archbishop of Canterbury-elect, Sarah Mullally. And we hope to form an official link with the London parish later this year. In November, we had our most successful dinner benefit ever. Thank you to co-chairs Lily and Jane for a spectacular event, and to Scott and Larry for your excellent auctioneering. See what excellent auctioneering gets you into. We raised over $50,000 for the restoration of the steeple. And while that is exciting, it is only a drop in the bucket. Under Jane's leadership, we accomplished so much restoration work this year, but there is so much more deferred maintenance yet to be addressed. We are primed and ready, I think, to finally mount a capital campaign, knowing that it will cost, but that the results will pay off. Alternatively, several of you could just write a check and make it easy. Later in November, Pete and I represented you at the 249th Pete Lely and I represented you at the 249th Convention of the Diocese of New York, where legislation was adopted, as I mentioned, to reform diocesan assessments. This was met with wide acclaim by everyone except Trinity Wall Street. That month, we also had our stewardship in gathering, and I'm happy to report that we have already met our goal for 2026 pledges. Excellent. That is not to say that you can't still pledge if you haven't already. It's never too late, but even if you don't, we still need your continued generosity. The end of the year is always a time when we think about what we can do for others. St. Mary's Outreach is active year-round, but I would like to thank Sue Haywood and the members of the Outreach Committee, as well as everyone who gives throughout the year to help people locally, nationally, and internationally. Thanksgiving baskets, thank you to Jane, and Angel Tree, thank you to Jill, help so many enjoy the season in a way that they couldn't otherwise. And December began with an annual but festive event. I was asked to publicly bless the new ambulance given to the Tuxedo Volunteer Ambulance Corps by the Hennessy family in memory of Phil Swerble. The weather was gorgeous, and we had a great community turnout for the event. The reception was hosted here in Bentley Hall, catered by characters, and a number of people had never even been in the building before, so it was a great community event. The Christmas season began with the Girl Scouts caroling at the church, which was well attended and adorable. We are also pleased that they meet here throughout the year. The services around the birth of Christ were varied but all glorious. On Christmas Eve, we started out with the Wild and Woolly pageant at 4 o'clock. This year with a real, live baby Jesus. Thank you, Foster. At 6 o'clock, we went north to St. John's in Arden for a cozy service using the 1928 prayer book. We also sang carols to the groaning old reed organ, which has become a mouse hotel. The traditional late service back here at St. Mary's featured a beautiful concert with our own talented musicians, as well as a visiting string ensemble. Tate Sink did a great job as thurifer, something we haven't had here in about 50 years. In fact, everyone in the altar party was either new or hadn't done it in years, but it all came off beautifully, and thank you to everyone. Christmas Day was lovely as always, and we welcomed some faces that we hadn't seen in a while, which made it all the better. And so thank you to everyone who served in any way during the Christmas holidays. And there's the Val Napolitano tree, all lit up with 250 brand new light bulbs that I screwed in myself. And we went from 1,750 watts to 150 for the whole tree. And they look exactly like traditional lights. As you can see, we pack a lot into a year at St. Mary's. We do all this in order to grow closer to God and to love and serve Him in our neighbors. We are also a liturgical and sacramental church, and we come here to mark life's milestones and to consecrate them to God. By the numbers, the Holy Eucharist was celebrated 135 times. We had 1 baptism, 1 marriage, and 6 burials. Now that sounds like a lot, but of the 6, none of them were members of the church. And interestingly, one of the physical burials was for 3 people at once. It was Guy Obolensky and his 2, I believe, grandparents, who were both born in 1874. Obviously, it was a cremation, which makes them the oldest people I have ever buried. So 3 at once, and then the others. And thank you to Father Ed for helping out with a couple of the burials later in the year when I was not able to be here. We did have one of our oldest member, Harrison, did die at age 99, but he was buried out of another church. His memory will surely be a blessing. Our numbers for the year are a mixed bag, but over the past 5 years, the trend is upwards. I am encouraged by the growth in those under 16, as well as those who are active but not members, showing the esteem in which our community holds the church. And while it is good to look back and take stock, it is also beneficial for our souls to cast a vision for the future. I am immensely grateful to our outgoing senior warden, Lily Newhouser. I'm grateful to Jane Garofano for her decades of service at St. Mary's, and I look forward to working with her as the next senior warden. Similarly, I discern gifts and passions in Scott Mullins, and am eager to welcome him as St. Mary's next church warden as we work strategically and faithfully for the mission of our church. I have been in touch with the Canon for Congregational Development, and in the near future, I want to convene a vestry retreat to revisit our goals and discuss how the various church activities and programs are meeting the needs of the church and its members, and to look at new ideas for ministry. It is time to ask, what is working well and what needs our attention? Do we need to make changes in our stated goals? Are our goals relevant to where we find ourselves today? And are our expectations fair, realistic, a stretch, but not impossible? My hope is that our goals for the coming year will include the hiring of a lay children and youth minister, strategically and faithfully addressing how to increase membership, particularly with the new Tuxedo Reserve development on the horizon, and how to welcome the influx of new families with children in the park and town. Transition and change are not easy for me. Maybe you feel the same. However, we know that change is the only constant thing in life. Organizations, like churches, require many hands to do the work. And as I am learning, while much of our understanding stems from received tradition, There are actual laws that dictate certain aspects of church governance. For example, in the state of New York, every Episcopal church is to have at least 3 or multiples of 3 vestry members, we have 9, and 2 church wardens. Indeed, the Religious Corporations Law is a fascinating rabbit hole to go down. Once things are codified, like the date of the annual meeting or the number of vestrymen, there is a Byzantine set of procedures to change that, which includes delivering legal documents to the county clerk. So who wants to volunteer for that? That being said, in our bylaws, which rightly reflect the New York State law, vestrymen and church wardens, those are the legal terms for the officers of the church, vestry members can serve 2 consecutive 3-year terms, up to 8 years if filling a vacancy, and church wardens can serve up to 3 consecutive 2-year terms. The terms of the vestry members and wardens are staggered accordingly in order to provide a level of continuity and still introduce fresh talent and new perspectives from time to time. And so it is difficult to end a certain special working relationship, even though we know it is the proper and legal thing to do. Of course, I am referring to the culmination today of the 3 terms that Lily Newhouser has served as senior warden of this church. A woman of many talents, Lily has served in the unenviable position as mayor of Tuxedo Park. When the massive wall collapsed opposite the boathouse, blocking traffic on Tuxedo Road for a very long time, just after that ordeal came to a close, Frank Fabia suggested that Lily would be a good fit for the vestry, and she accepted and served further as a member of the Rector Search Committee, which is how she and I first met back in 2017. I was a candidate for rector of St. Mary's and was invited to do a Skype interview from my home in Philadelphia. Anybody remember Skype? I was new to video conferencing, and unfortunately my camera was set to contacts only, so the whole thing was more of a conference call, but I still remember Lily's distinctive voice coming across the ether. Things went well, and the committee decided to send a group down to meet me and Pete. And now, officially, of course, I was the one being interviewed, but in the priest selection process, the spouse, if there is one, is also greatly scrutinized. So Pete was on interview as well. So picture it. It was the second Sunday of Easter, Low Sunday, and I had a strategy to get people in church. If there was a baptism, I would always schedule it for that day, so it would fill the numbers. And that was also the day of our annual meeting back at Trinity. So I had a baptism and an annual meeting to run. So in stepped 3 women, one of whom was Lily, who attended the service and were then whisked away by Pete to our home. I wonder what people thought was happening. I conducted the fastest annual meeting in the history of Christendom and then hurried home for tea with Lily, Sarah Cassis, and Barb Anderson. We advanced to the next round and were invited to Tuxedo for in-person interviews with the whole vestry. The rest is history. At that time, Lily was on the vestry, and it was a tough time. As I said, change is difficult. But Lily was faithful and determined in her service, and soon I knew in my heart who I wanted the next senior warden to be. I approached her about it, and in characteristic style, Lily stepped up to the plate. What a 6 years it has been. Time has flown. So, on January 19th, 2020, Lily stepped into the role of senior warden. January 19th, 2020. Perfect day. Anyone remember what happened just 2 months later? COVID forced us to redefine how we live our lives and how we are the church. March 15th, 2020 was our last in-person service for a while. But far from being dormant, St. Mary's sprang into action, and Lily was at the heart of our plan to care for all of our neighbors, especially the elderly and sick. She personally drove people to doctor appointments and delivered groceries and prescriptions to those in need. And she was also a constant support to me as I navigated St. Mary's through uncharted waters. As we emerged from the pandemic, Lily had some great ideas as to how to keep the community together and continue much-needed fundraising. The spring cocktail party at the club and the Emporium at St. Mary's are enduring testaments to this. I remember when Lily floated the idea of a church shop, people balked at the idea of a thrift store. Indeed, the church had been the last stop before the landfill for many years. No, she said, it's not a thrift shop, it's an emporium. And so she transformed the Undercroft into a veritable Aladdin's cave of treasures, which has become known far and wide as a place where you can find just the perfect outfit, accessory, or objet d'art. And it is the place to get the scoop on Tuxedo. If you want to know what's going down in Tuxedo, head over to the Emporium. Lily, these last 6 years have been something of a roller coaster, and I am so grateful to have had you by my side as a counselor, a guide, a sounding board, a supporter, a kind critic, and a friend. I know that this particular leave-taking is by no means the end, but it is a change, and it is hard. Nevertheless, I rejoice in all that St. Mary's has become and the trajectory we are on for even greater things in the future. Please join me in thanking Lily. And as a small token of my personal gratitude, I would like to invite you and...
On vacation?
No. Like, invite you and Charlie, or you don't have to bring Charlie, you can bring whoever you want, to join Pete and me for the Peak Bloom Party in Burnsville.
Oh my goodness.
It's a magical evening, dinner and music and millions of CDs.
Wow, thank you.
So I have to wait a little bit. But. So May 30th, we'll be doing that. Yeah.
Where I went to school.
I know. So, thank you, everyone. The future is bright. Let us go forth in the name of Christ. That concludes my report, and I would like to now invite any questions or comments that you might have. Any questions? Harl, do you have a question?
Can you cover the thermostat over here?
Yeah, I know. I've been thinking about that. I need to patch those holes up and paint it. Maybe, Harold, maybe you could be on the redecorating committee for the Bentley Hall. I think that would be a good idea. I honestly, I was going to put you on the vestry, but you're too young still. A couple years. All right, well, with that, I would like to invite our Rector Emeritus, Father Ed Cromie, to give his report.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank Father Rick and the vestry and the parish for giving me this honor and privilege to be your Rector Emeritus. What do? I do is help out as much as I can. And I have to thank you for keeping me on your prayer list. For almost 5 years ago, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer with a PSA of 9. And through medicines and a lot of prayers, it's now down to 0.1. I take services occasionally on Wednesdays. My next service there is February 4th. And take care of pastoral responsibilities while Rick may be on vacation or away. One time, Lily asked me, what do you do as Rector Emeritus and you're 91 years old? And I was thinking about that. And the first thing I thought was, well, I went to my attorney to see if my will was in order. And then I planned my funeral here at St. Mary's. I've already prepaid my funeral. And when I prepaid it, I told the director, I'm not going. But when I do, I want to come here and have my service, be Holy Communion. I've asked Rick to celebrate. I've asked Jesu to be my preacher, because I have known him for maybe 30 years while he was rector of Walden. And at one time, he submitted my name to the bishop for me to receive the Bishop's Cross. So I know he'd say nice things about me. But I asked him to make it short. And Sheldon, well, I had to talk to Sheldon about the music. And I said, Sheldon, I don't want Happy Days Are Here Again. But I want to outline the service. I want the first hymn to be, Shall We Gather at the River? It's a good gospel hymn. And if you sang that hymn in the Episcopal Church 50 years ago, you'd go straight not to heaven. And we have the collect for the adult. And the first lesson I wanted from the book of Job, and that's the one that really talks about I am the resurrection and the life. And Sue Hayward, I'd like you to read it. I love your accent. And then I would like the choir to sing Pie Jesu, the Andrew Lloyd Webber version.
That's the lovely one.
The duet. Okay. Prayers of the people, and I like the piece, and just don't stay in your pew and go that. Like to move around and say hello. Then the hymn I would like, I am the bread of life. We have the great Thanksgiving, and you did the Sanctus by Schubert today. You did the Sanctus by Willen today. I would like it by Schubert. Before receiving communion, I would like everyone to sing, Let Us Break Bread Together. During communion, I want the choir to be there, all of you. But during communion, I want you to sing these hymns quietly and softly while people are receiving. The strife is o'er, the battle is done, abide with me, and there's an ubi caritas in the hymnal that I love to do that one. Then after that, after receiving communion, there's the commendation. And after that, I'd like the remembrances, people to speak about me. I don't know who that will be. We'll leave it to the family. I know my one son is dying to do it. I think he's already written it. Then after that, we'll sing, Let Us Go Forth in the Name of Christ. And I said, what final hymn would I like? And I thought of Glory, Glory, Hallelujah. But I chose Onward Christian Soldiers. But that would be the final hymn. Then there's the committal. And my graveside was down there. And when the plot was given to me by Ed Wheeler, he said, you don't mind being near Route 17, do you? And I said, no, not a problem. And not necessary for the congregation to go to the committal. But if you do, it's easier to go through this door and out the back, as opposed to down the big steps. And then I was thinking about, no, I do hope you all come. I want you to be there, because I'll take attendance.
We might go before you, probably.
All right, at this time, I would like to invite our treasurer, Joanne Hanson, to give her report.
So as we've seen this morning and discussed, St. Mary's is a vital community of prayer and action out in the world, and there are folks who will talk about the outreach activities a little later on this morning. Before I start talking about the numbers, and I don't know if you want to just plop them up there, but I really want to thank Pete, who loves accounting and is good at accounting. Getting organized for the third Sunday in January is a little challenge to wrestle all those numbers into place. And Natalia, our bookkeeper. So the three of us work together, and I will say that Pete does a yeoman's efforts in delving into the inner workings of Realm. So when we talk about where is St. Mary's in terms of its finances, our revenue was up last year, courtesy of the generosity of our pledging community. But also, I think St. Mary's is very blessed in terms of friends and neighbors. And so people who don't necessarily attend here are also very involved in supporting us. So our revenue was up last year. However, we did run a deficit, and that was a combination of factors that I'm sure many of you have experienced. Higher health insurance costs, more organ maintenance than we anticipated. Not that we're having a lot of earthquakes, but every time we do have one, the organ has to be worked on. And unanticipated HVAC repairs were some of the big ones from last year. As Father Rick touched on, this year, we, for the first time, contested our diocesan assessment and went in and said, it's not financially prudent for us to pay this $50,000. And so we worked out with the diocese to reduce that. A very key part of Bishop Hyde's new ministry for the diocese overall was redoing mission share, and our new number this year should work out to about 13,000. And that will make a huge difference, because if you look at what we project, not vast, but we expect to break even in 2026, and a big piece of that is the decrease in the diocesan share. We did have to reach last year into legacy savings. The year before, we had been blessed with a gift of land that the church sold, and we used some of those funds to fill the deficit that you see here in 2025, which is a little under $14,000. We've had a very significant year in terms of capital improvements to the church, and as Father Rick touched on, it turns out he's very handy, and he's done demolition and plumbing and electrical and a whole lot of other things. The big expense this year, an ongoing expense, is work to our steps and our masonry. That came in at a little over $70,000 right here. We made improvements to the rectory. We put in a new fire system for the church and dealt with other deferred maintenance. And in total, that came up to a great deal of money, just shy of $200,000. So we very much appreciate the generosity of folks who contributed to make that possible, and a chunk of that was the money we raised for the steeple in the auction last year. I'd just like to touch on, as we move into tax season, if you're of my vintage and you're doing required minimum distributions, if you make, you can give a charitable gift. St. Mary's would be lovely, but a charitable gift, and it will be tax-free. It counts against your required RMD, and so that's something just to keep in mind. We have an endowment. We, this year, reduced the amount that we are taking from the endowment down to 6.5%. That's still more than we would like, and we are working back to a more sustainable 5%, but it's a positive step in the right direction. So obviously, 2020 was a clip on our endowment with the pandemic, and it has steadily increased and improved since then. So I want to thank you for your participation and your generosity. Your contributions make it possible to keep this container, the building with which we pray and have our community, but also to reach out beyond our walls and have a significant impact throughout Orange County and further into the diocese. So are there any questions about the finances? With that, I will move on to the next component of the today.
Before we begin committee reports, I would like to ask Lily, you want to say anything? You don't have to.
Oh, no, I will. Sorry. First of all, thank you all. This, didn't even expect to say anything, but more than anything, this is a family to me. And that makes it easy to do what I do and have done over the past few years. And thank you all for making it so much fun, most of the time. Most of the time. No, it truly has been wonderful, and I've really enjoyed working with Rick and Pete. And I have to tell you a funny story, very briefly. We're sitting in their living room. Rick has just joined us. This was in Pennsylvania right after his annual meeting there, and it was just fraught with, oh my gosh, and here he is, and he comes racing in. We're sitting having tea, discussing whatever, chit-chatting. We're already thinking, oh, Pete's good too. This is a twofer for sure. And just as we're sitting there quietly, all of a sudden this noise, do you remember this? Vroom, 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 vroom. This helicopter sounds like it's about to land right on their house. And we all thought, it's a sign. So as we're driving home and discussing this, we decided this was great. God is approved with the helicopter, and also Pete would be a wonderful add-on to a new rector. Anyway, it's been really, it's been a labor of love, and at times it has been difficult, but I think we've all grown through the few bad times and most of the good times. And thanks to all of you, because it really has been a wonderful journey. And it's not going to change much, not much, anyway. And come to gossip at the Emporium.
Would you encounter the ushers?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
We have some amazing ministries and committees doing very important things here at St. Mary's, including the Altar Guild, and that's led by Wendy Fabia. Buildings and Grounds is being led by Jane Garofano. The Emporium is Lily's. Finance, Joanne Hansen. Music, Sheldon Eldridge. Outreach, Sue Haywood. Pastoral Care, Lily. Stewardship, Spiros. Sunday School is currently vacant. Looking, and Technology, Calvin DeMond. So, with that, I would like to invite any of those committee chairs to come up and tell us a little bit more about what you've been up to this year.
There are some reports in your packet.
There are some printed reports. If any of those would like to say anything to us, now's the chance.
Sheldon.
Okay. Before Sheldon starts, can I just, as a pastoral care, no, come, 2 seconds. Just saying, if anybody hears of anybody who's in need or sick or whatever, if you would call me or Rick, doesn't matter, but just so we start to, because we can't, I don't have an ear on everything, especially with the younger folks and whatnot.
And my crystal ball is broken, so.
Anyway, that's all. Just let us know.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, a big thank you to our rector, who is unflagging in his support of quality liturgy and music in this parish, and it's why I'm here. And without his support, I couldn't do it. He's been absolutely wonderful. Many times, just after the service, he'll say, well, I heard that little ornamentation you did on that hymn, or something. I know he's always listening and always aware of what's going on at the organ, and much appreciated, and with the choir. And my Scola has been just a joy to work with. They are amazing people, and very gifted. Johanna Maria Rose, our alto, was a founding member of a world-famous group of women singers in New York City, Anonymous 4, specializing in medieval music, and she has brought us music I would never have known. A lot of the Latin anthems that we have been doing, and when we had to go through that period with poor Tony having his voice just cave out from under him, all that 3-part literature, I didn't know that literature. I never had a need to know it. I always had 4 parts. And she brought us all this wonderful literature to sing, and we managed to hold everything together. And now, thank God, Tony is back with us, but it all worked out, and her knowledge is just comprehensive of music in that period, and it's been really wonderful. What I really wanted to talk about today is our pipe organ. It's built by the Austin Organ Company of Hartford, Connecticut. The company was founded in 1893. Our organ is Opus 2557. It's the 557th organ that they have built since they were founded. That's a lot of organs. And they come in all shapes and sizes to accommodate whatever space they were put into, whatever church they were put into. Our instrument is a modest size organ compared to really, really huge instruments. It has 34 sets of pipes in it, which is fairly modest in size. You go into New York City, those big churches, you'll find 80, 90, 100, 125 rank organs in those great big rooms, and so even in some of the smaller rooms. But Austin is, if there's one thing they're known for, it's durability. We're lucky to have it. Many other companies, the console where I play, would have fallen apart long ago. Austin's are virtually indestructible. This is the original console. The mechanical action for all the stop changing with the pistons has never been altered. It's all original, and it still works. And that's pretty incredible. However, anything over half a century old ultimately is going to need a complete and thorough overhaul, and we are pretty much at that point now with ours. Well, mechanical equipment, Father. Mechanical equipment, I'm sorry. But what is an organ? It's not likely that many lay people would understand really what it is. There's no reason why you should. I'm trained in it. 34 sets of pipes. Well, an organ has 61 keys on each keyboard. There are 3 on our organ, and they're called manuals. It's a 3-manual organ. The pedal board has 32 keys. So every time you draw a stop, the 8-foot principle on the main manual, the great manual, there are 61 pipes just for that one stop. Every one of those pipes is made by hand, completely. The metal is rolled out to a certain thickness, allowed to dry. It's a combination of materials that they use. All these tools are made to shape pipes, solder them, build the mouth, put it together. Incredibly time-consuming to build an organ. The reed stops are made completely differently. That when you get that fiery effect in the organ, the growling and the fire, that comes from the reeds. They're very touchy. And harder to tune. And the really high-pitched pipes are very, very tiny as you go up the compass. They get so small that it's unbelievable how small they are. All of these have to be tuned. And there's a tuning slide on the top of every one of these pipes, except the reeds, they're different. And to tune it takes the patience of Job, especially the little tiny ones. Eventually metal fatigue occurs, and those tuning slides start to loosen up, and it's getting very difficult to keep them from moving. Then the pipe goes out of tune. We're spending more time tuning this organ now than we used to because it's getting harder to deal with. And it's going out of tune more easily. Right now, there's some things out of tune now. It was just tuned before Christmas, November, and things have slid, which shouldn't. All that goes on. Another thing about the instrument, it was built in '73. We're lucky it has ivory keys. You can't do that anymore. In that time period, there was a certain philosophy about organ building, which meant it was more sort of a Baroque type organ. Our organ has a lot of chiffy sounds in it. It was not the beefier, guttier kind of organ that it really should be. However, the pipework we have can be made to sound far, far better. The mouth of the pipe, if it's cut up higher on our instrument, the whole thing would bloom out in a way that it can't right now. The scaling, in other words, the dimensions of our pipework is good. It's really good. It's not scaled too small for the room. It's the way it's cut up. A complete revoicing, and this instrument would just, you wouldn't believe what it could do. It would just transform it into something magical. Right now, it's kind of constrained where the way it's set. If any of you would like to see some of the pipework, by the way, I think it's worth doing. Just talk to me, and I can open a door in there, and you just look into what's called the swell box, the division that opens and closes for expression. And people just go, when they look in there, because they cannot believe how much there is in there. You just see the facade pipes, and they're real. You're looking at are real pipes. They're real speaking pipes. But inside, there's a ton more. And it's all good pipework. It really is good. It just needs to be completely redone. And in time, we really need to face that. The other thing is, it is a mechanical machine, and more is going to start to go wrong with it. Right now, we're pretty lucky. Some of those things haven't happened yet. This year, unfortunately, there were some emergencies, and it got really expensive. Brunner, by the way, our new organ firm, I've changed to a much better firm, is making a report as to why all of that, why those expenses were incurred, which you will see. But anyway, it's worth doing. I know as an organist, I get the organist magazines. I constantly see rebuilding at this point in an organ's history in other churches, a complete rebuild, a reworking of it. It goes on all over the country, all over Europe. It's just done. After a certain point of time, it needs to be done.
The question is how much will it come to?
That has to be determined. It depends what firm does it. It depends. I really can't speak to it. But I can tell you this, if you were to buy an organ, such as we have, the size of the instrument we have, and you wanted to install something like that from scratch today, maybe $900,000, brand new. And it certainly wouldn't come to that, but less than half that, for sure, to rebuild it. It would go, the whole organ would go out. It would go to the organ shop, and it would just be completely reworked. The reed work would come back sounding far richer and grander and less blatty in character. You know, it would be far better. But this is down the pike. At some point, we need to have an organ campaign. And it's worth it. It's the most valuable object that we own in the church. And it's certainly worth doing at some point. Anyway, thanks.
Thank you, Sheldon. Okay. Yes. Okay, yes. Thank you, Sheldon, and thank you again to members of the Schola. You know how I feel that the liturgy and the music go hand in glove, and I'm so privileged to work so closely with you in your ministry throughout the year, so thank you. Jane?
Hi, everybody. This year has really been very, very productive, and I've been a member of St. Mary's for over 40 years, half my life, and it is my second home. And so I found that we treat St. Mary's like a home. We have to clean it, things that you don't think about. We're all here, and we come and go, and it has to be cleaned, it has to be repaired, and then it has to be maintained. And so this year, I don't know how it all came about, but it's been a very, very productive year. You can see better in the nave. We had all of the lights changed, upgraded. It will help in the electricity. And we've had a new alarm system put in, way overdue. Rick's put in cameras all over the place so that we can catch the little varmints that like to come in, open doors. No, really, and for any accidents and that sort of thing. But we've done a lot of work here, and I'm very pleased to be close enough and interested enough and heartfelt enough to care so much about St. Mary's. So when you come here, feel like you're at home, because we do clean it, we take a lot of time with that, we repair it wherever we can, and we're planning to do a lot more. So I'm pleased to continue with that role.
Thank you.
Rick, just a question regarding the buildings. Is there any plan to use the chapel at all? Because we don't really use it anymore. Any extra services or anything like that?
Well, the chapel remains open for private devotion, and we do use it for Maundy Thursday. We do need to consider, though, we're now live streaming on Wednesday and all that.
Can't use it on Wednesday?
If we're going to live stream, then no. And also, ever since we moved the offices to up here, it just makes more sense. Whereas we used to be down below, and it was right next to the office there, and there's no running water, and it's, you know, we have a whole sacristy here. It just makes a lot more sense up here. But Jane, thank you so much for your report, and I've had a great, so I was at a priest meeting, and somebody was complaining, and they're like, we were ordained to be priests, not project managers. And I thought, I kind of like both. So I have fun working with Jane and getting stuff done. It's, you know, there's so many times you just talk about things, but we get it done. And so I'm really pleased with that. Is there another report? Sue, come on up.
Thank you. The report is in the, if you just refer to it. I have been outreach chair since I took over from Joe Lafka in 2008, and it's just what I do. I just love it, okay? Some of what we do these days, because the discretionary fund is rather small, we also work together with individual families, and they have to stay anonymous. So some things I can't refer to the committee, and it's just got to be between the rector and myself. If you look at the financials, the important thing there, I think, is the for expenditure on outreach, we had $71,814. Sorry, no, we had $86,347, and we used $71,814. And we end up with in the bank now with almost 15,000. Disappointing this year, the only grant we got was the Episcopal Board of Managers. Episcopal Charities has supported us for years through Helping Hands, and they made a tremendous difference when during COVID we had to expand the food pantry. This year, they said they just didn't have enough money. We did the applications, they came and looked, they praised everything, and then they said, I'm sorry, there's nothing for you this year. So we're reapplying for next year and hope we get it. Local outreach, supporting the homeless, Helping Hands of Rockland County. We're very much practical there. I used to be on the board, but I've backed off now because the meetings were at night and way, way away. Frank Favia, we suggested that he could do the job of treasurer a few years ago, and he's still doing it and doing a great job. Homeless also, Habitat. Dennis is our representative there. 3,500 in donations, and we support their 3 big fundraisers: the walk, the breakfast, and the 12th night concert. The community food pantry, it's now called, not Sloatsburg, I'm glad to see that. We're in weekly contact with them. I call up or I email and say, what don't you have this week that you know is going to be needed? And it's usually Dennis and myself, we go out shopping and we purchase and we give to them. Oh yes, and we became the plentiful sponsor. We were the largest sponsors in the district for the fundraising dinner, 2,500, and we've also given them a further 2,000. One of the things about Episcopal Charities is that they won't give to the parish if the parish is not putting a lot of money already into what they are going to support. So we have to prove, although we want to give, we have to prove that we are doing it ourselves before we ask for the extra help. They've added clothes and diapers this year, and it's really been very good indeed. And I'm so happy to have Pete now on the board. So we're meeting together to plan this year's appeal to Episcopal Charities. Local families, we supported individuals and families at times of crises when rent and utility bills couldn't be met, an after-school program that it was essential for the parents to work, but the child was in kindergarten and couldn't be dropped off by a bus, had to go to the after-school program. We put nearly $1,000 into that, but it was absolutely essential. And one of the lovely, well, I don't know, because I taught English as a second language both in Sloatsburg, Suffolk, and I'm very well known among the families down here, and if they have a problem, they turn to Rick sometimes, but they know me well, and they have this wonderful feeling of St. Mary's will help. Okay, we look into it before we do help, but they certainly know they can turn to St. Mary's, which really is, I feel, what a church should be. We gave 3 college sponsorships, and this year we didn't ask for essays, but we asked for the needs of the students, and are they likely to succeed, and will they work hard? And we chose them because they really needed the money. And then one guy, he couldn't go to college, his parents can't afford it, but hey, that's not the end of the world. He's working for in the town, and he's hoping to make enough money to go on to college, and probably he'll end up in an electrician or something like that, but my goodness, that's what we need. So we gave him gas cards so he could get to where he had to go. In summer, as you know, we support the summer camp, 5 weeks of activities, and on Fridays they go out on trips. The cost this year was $16,339 to us. The parents had contributed $200 for the first child and $100 for the others. The cost was $750 for the first child and $650 for if they were paying for it themselves. The Angel Tree supplied 26 families and 41 children, a $100 ShopRite card and 1 Amazon card per child. And thank you to Jill and Fred, who really worked at that and put it all together. And then we met with the school, and it's so good. And this year, the superintendent, did I call him a supervisor? I did. The superintendent noticed that things were going on, inquired and discovered all that we do for the school and sent us a very nice thank you letter. Rural and Migrant Ministries we support each year, and the Rockland Youth Empowerment in a smaller capacity. National and international outreach, natural disasters, usually through Episcopal Relief and Development, but the diocese this year was so appalled and I can't think of the right word, but what was happening in Gaza. And they asked for donations for the World Central Kitchen in order to help provide food for the Palestinians in Gaza. So they led that appeal, and we responded well. And then the Episcopal Church in Jerusalem, their school and their hospital, they were in a devastating situation, so we helped with them as well. We continue to support CareU ministry. It started in 2000, and I moved into this church from St. John's Ramsey in 2001, and it started in St. John's Ramsey. We've supported them ever since. I was going every year to work with them, but COVID has put an end to that, and my age has stopped me continuing when COVID finished. But I'm in contact all the time with Trevor and Brenda. Just today she sent me a whole pile of photos of the food parcels that they delivered last week. And also the funding of the CareU ministry, Dennis said I should explain it. A lot of the majority of the donations are not from this parish, but they put them, they make it out to St. Mary's for tax purposes, because you can't get tax relief if you're paying for something overseas. And I have donors 5,000 and 5,000 and 3,000, okay? And then a big thank you to everyone. We've got a lot of support, and long may it continue. Thank you. Any questions or complaints? Speak now.
Solicit complaints.
You didn't need to see the slides, they're kind of boring anyway, but, so what I did come up with is some numbers on, because people always ask me how many people are watching and so forth, so on. So I don't think anybody would be surprised to know that the majority of the viewers of our services are female, 52% to 47%. And the median age groups are 25 to 34 and 35 to 44. But, and most of the views are to the actual live streams, although, you know, we do have videos and shorts from time to time, and those get a lot of views. So, like several thousand, like almost a little under 3,000 for the live streams. So we're doing very well. Since I retired at the end of September 2024, we've added the Wednesday 10 a.m. service, and after we revamped the sound system, we were able to do the Carillon on Wednesdays and Sundays, and that is doing very well. Last year, when I gave the report, the number 1 and number 2 views were the Follies that Father Cromie produced back in the day. We had a lot of views of that. When we had our talent show last year, that's now the number 1 thing that people continue to go back to. I think it's Father Cromie's singing that, that did that. But yeah, the spring talent show is number 1, Easter Sunday is number 2, Christmas Eve concert's number 3, Palm Sunday is 4th, and Maundy Thursday is the 5th of the live streams. As far as videos go, where people can look at it numerous times, Easter egg hunt from last year was number 1. Number 2, the remarks of for Memorial Day were up there. Several sermons that Pete edited and reposted. So that's done very well for us. The talent show had they go by, they call them impressions, 637 impressions, which is very high, which was actually more than Easter Sunday, which was 264. So Christmas Eve always does well. Our number, our high participation services, Palm Sunday, Easter Sunday, things like that. The overall thing that I think you should take away from what we're doing, growing up, we didn't have this obviously, but we had radio. And in the town that I grew up in, they rotated to the different churches every month, and you did a month of services on the local radio station. So we pulled out all the stops and, with as far as music was concerned. But we don't have to worry about that because, our music is fantastic here. But I always thought, well, because there are some local religious stations saying maybe we could do that. But then COVID came along, and as Father Robine said, we started with an iPhone, and I think I had to keep sending little notes. Well, you got to do it like this. Turn the camera this way. I'll leave a microphone on the steps of the church. Use the microphone. Well, we wore that microphone out, and so then I started actually bringing my equipment and doing certain services from the back of a church. I think we did Easter and Palm Sunday, things like that. Fortunately, through the generosity at one of our auctions, we raised enough money to buy the equipment we have currently. And with some improvements we made to the audio, it's pretty much a remote access production system. So, for example, Christmas Eve concert, I was in Florida, but I was able to assist Pete doing the sound. All I need is a high-speed internet connection. That works very well for us. So it gives us flexibility. This is a trend that's happening with churches all around the world now. But the other important thing, how many people here are subscribed to our YouTube channel? Okay. So we need more people to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Now, why is that important? If you remember back in the 70s, there was a commercial, I think it was for shampoo, I told two friends, and then they told two friends, and so on and so on and so on and so on. That's how things go viral. That's how things grow. So we all should subscribe, and we need to share what, especially like on some Sundays, if it's, if you're like really moved by the sermon, share that, Invite people to subscribe. And, especially on days like today, when it's hard to get around, it's a vital resource for people. People tell me all the time, yeah, we couldn't make it, we were out of town, whatever, but I could tune in and watch. For me personally, I like the Wednesday service, but hearing the bells when I'm not here, when I'm somewhere else, when I'm traveling, and to be able to tune in, and I've rigged up how to do it. The first time I got a little emotional, because how many people actually hear the noon bells here? Well, because you live here. But if you're in other parts of the town, you don't hear them. You have to be here. I don't hear it at my house. I hear the train, but I don't hear them. So it's a unique thing, and that has started to gain some traction. People are, starting to tune in, and I mean, considering what we paid to keep that maintained, we need to get some traction out of it. And so, but the one important reason why I'm pushing these things is to get people to realize that, St. Mary's is here for everyone. It's a great resource. It was a great one for me. And get people to write a check and send it into St. Mary's, because obviously we know that we cannot maintain this without those little pieces of paper that say, "In God we trust." So, are there any questions about the streaming?
Can we juice up the volume on the bell?
We can.
Yeah.
It's almost a house. We can.
We should go it louder.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Can you hear
I
me?
hear him on my porch.
You do?
Yeah, okay. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone.
Thanks to our new store windows, we don't hear them quite as loudly as we used to at the rectory. And you can't see the window shades flapping in the breeze anymore either. All right, are there any more reports? Okay. Well then, I would like to say thank you to everyone for coming. Thank you to those who filled out the reports. Let's see. Now it's time to pray. Ever-living God, whose will it is that all should come to you through your Son, Jesus Christ, inspire our witness to him, that all may know the power of his forgiveness and the hope of his resurrection, who lives and reigns with you in the Holy Spirit, one God, now and forever. Amen. I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Lily moves. Spiro seconds. Having completed all of the items on the agenda for this annual meeting, we now adjourn. All those in favor of adjourning? Aye. Okay, anybody want to stay here the rest of the day? No, okay. All right, the next annual meeting of St. Mary's is scheduled for January 17th, 2027. This is something that the vestry may be taking up, but as of right now, that is the date. I also want to give a little plug for this will start in Lent. We're going to do the book group again at the rectory. And it will be Wednesdays at 6 o'clock, and there'll be more information about that. But just so you know, and if you want to join in, you can get your book. We're going to be reading a book that was given to me by Fred and Jill. It's called The Garden Against Time by Olivia Lang. So if you want to go ahead and order that book, so you'll have it ready to go. It looks like it'll be a nice thing for us to discuss in the cold winter months, and possibly uplifting as well in this time of strife. So now I would like to invite the members of the vestry, new vestry, old and new, to join me in French House for a very brief meeting. We have a couple of housekeeping things that we have to accomplish. And as I mentioned, much of this is bound up in New York State law. We have to meet within 3 days of the annual meeting. So the clock's ticking, so we have to get over to French House.